to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I want to talk about something interesting. I mean, every day is interesting. I get it. But today I wanted to talk about what happens in our brains before we actually take an action or perform some sort of behavior. So I thought this was interesting. But before I get to it, I wanted to remind you again what the listener challenge is for May, and that is creative expression. So I'm going to see if I can explain it a little better. I don't know if I did such a great job yesterday. So this month, listeners are encouraged to engage in any kind of creative activity. So pick a project or multiple projects, but I think we should just have one. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to not, plan, plan multiple things for me to do, because that's what I usually do. I'm an overachiever. And so pick an activity. It can be writing, painting, music, any kind of crafting, sewing, quilting, knitting, woodworking. I wrote a list in front of me. Or any other artistic expression. It could be something that is just completely out of the ordinary as well. It doesn't matter what it is, but the initiative aims to embrace and demonstrate transformation and renewal through creative work. So listeners are invited to submit a photo before and after to showcase your transformation, your craft, your project. So these projects can range from upcycling old furniture to repurposing clothes into new artistic and fashionable pieces. Each creation is meant to symbolize renewal and second chances. Get it? Recovery. So this is resonating with these themes of recovery and sustainability. And this is an activity that I started doing when I started sobriety. And I love it. And I haven't talked much about it yet. I guess I just haven't felt well enough to talk about it. So as I'm starting to feel a little better, I'm trying to control myself, but as I'm feeling a little better, I wanted to get back into this upcycling. So upcycling is the cool word. I have been calling it flea market flip after the TV show. I was obsessed with flea market flip. I was watching the episode just one after the other, binge watching it. Anyway, this was long ago when I was watching TV and such. But I started to do this. I started to go to flea markets, pick up old furniture, and do something with it, like give it new purpose. I've even been known to stop on the side of the road and get a broken chair that fell out of a truck and was going to rot there. And so I picked it up and made it into this beautiful chair that I love. So I'm uploading all of my projects onto the podcast website. And the new page is called Recovery Upcycling. And it can be found at recoverydailypodcast.com/upcycling. So the page is already there. I have some projects up. I'm still loading a whole lot more. I have a lot. I didn't realize I had so many actually. But this section on the website, I have a big master plan, as you would expect. But We're just getting started here. So this section celebrates the process of upcycling, turning old stuff into new useful objects. So forgotten items into beautiful, reusable type items. So the initiative began with a project that I had in the early stages of sobriety. I made an old baby closet that had been left out in the rain, and I found it at a flea market in a field by itself, all lonely and sad, and just looking like it was rotting. And I bought it anyway. My mom was with me, and I brought it home and I crossed my fingers, and I started, once it dried out, I started sanding the outside of it. It had this like really rough, thick, terrible paint on it. Anyway, I just started sanding the paint off, and I was so relieved to see that there was beautiful wood underneath that ugly, rotten paint. So I sanded the whole thing down, did a lot of work to it, and turned it into a coffee bar. And it was in my dining room for for 5 years until we moved here. And when we moved here, it just didn't fit the style of our new furniture when we moved in. So I don't have it anymore, but it was a hard decision to get rid of it. But I realized what finally helped me make the decision to get rid of it was that the reason for the project was for me to stay sober. And that's exactly what it helped me do in the beginning stages of my sobriety. And I want to share that fun activity with other people that are early in sobriety. It's really such a helpful way to like be creative, pour your heart into something. You get a lot of time when you stop drinking. There's a lot of extra time, and a lot of extra brain power that we weren't really using before. And you can keep your hands busy. So it was just the perfect activity for me to get started on early in sobriety. And I want to share that with people and see if it might help others too. So we're turning it into a broader movement celebrating recovery and creativity. So at the end of the month, what I'd like to do is have selected creations. I can put everybody's on the website. It doesn't matter, but I'd like to put your submissions on the webpage and showcase some of the transformation stories that you create and show your creativity to a wider audience. So I'm asking you to think about a project that you want to create this month. It can be knitting something, writing something. It doesn't matter how big it is, how long it is, how expensive it is. It doesn't matter. It's starting something, having nothing and creating something. And it all happened through here and here, through your heart and your brain. And what I'd like is to get before and after pictures. So if you're writing something, that can be a blank screen, if that makes sense, or some way to capture what you turned into this great project of yours. If it's something you're knitting, take a picture of the ball of yarn before you get started. So I'm looking forward to working on this with you all. I am currently working on a quilt, and I'm working on a summer romper that I'm making out of some long sleeve workout like what are they, like water wicking shirts. They were old workout shirts, and I cut them up and I'm making them into a romper. So I'll be posting those on the website. And I also have another project that I'm working on in my garage that is for my daughter, Bailey, and her boyfriend. So I will be putting that on the website also. Sorry to be, I have something in my eye. Sorry about that. Okay. So now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about what is happening that is unseen when we are making decisions. So what I want to do is start off with sharing a study that I heard about and talk about how this may be related to relapse, like pre-relapse brain, and what is actually going on. So let's get started instead of me sitting here trying to explain it. So this is a cool topic. It blends neuroscience with the daily choices that we make. Just not even in sobriety, but just your daily choices. So I'll get into that, but it's about how decisions to relapse begin in the brain long before they manifest in our actions. So I want us to gain a better understanding of our minds and how we might be able to catch those early warning signs of a relapse or early warning signs that we're getting ready to make a bad decision. And I believe that those are also there. I can see them in myself. So there was research in neuroscience. A neuroscientist did this study that showed the process of making a decision happens before we take the action. So what they did was they had a bunch of subjects that were told to push a button, and it didn't matter when they pushed the button and with what hand they pushed the button. So they could push the button with their left hand or their right hand. They could wait 3 seconds. They could wait a minute. They could wait as long as they want. And they would repeatedly like push the button at different intervals. So what they found was that they were able to predict which hand of the subject was going to press the button 6 seconds before they actually press the button. So there is brain activity that is making the decision before several seconds before we are consciously aware that the decision is being made. It's almost creepy. It's almost creepy to me to think that my brain's like making decisions without me, right? That's what it seems like. So I thought, though, that this was particularly insightful for understanding relapse in alcoholism. So these brain imaging studies suggest that areas involved in decision making show activity that predicts what we're going to do. And this activity often relates to how we process rewards and risks, which obviously are critical in the context of alcoholism and recovery. So, knowing this is the case, and having heard time and time again in recovery, since I've been in recovery for 8 years, I'm allowed to say that now. And because before I was like for almost 8 years, for 1 month short of 8 years. So now I get to say 8 years. Yay me. Um, So having heard over and over in the past 8 years that we are thinking about taking that drink long before we do, um, it always made a lot of sense to me. I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me that I'm going to start going down a path that is the destination of that path is a drink, when I could be going down another path where the destination of that path is, you know, going to AA meeting or getting a psychiatrist, that kind of thing. So the actions that we take long before we do the final thing, the thoughts we have that lead to the actions before we get to the actual destination of our path, if we can pay attention to those, we might be able to figure out what what we're doing before we do it. Yeah? Okay. So, I thought about, let's talk about the red flags and warning signs of relapse or making bad decisions. And I know that these are different for each person. And my psychiatrist, in fact, asked me a couple weeks ago to spend a few days thinking about my red flags. Do I, what should I look out for that tells me that I'm getting depressed? And when I did this exercise for her, what stood out to me were things like stopping answering texts from people on my phone, stopping getting dressed during the day and just leaving on my pajamas, just being like, I'm too tired. Or I stopped working on hobbies. I stopped having enthusiasm to come up with ideas. I've told you guys that before. Like I know that I'm good when I've got ideas, when I'm coming up with money making part-time jobs. That's when Rachel is in her prime. And so I've got lots of them right now in my head, and that's when I'm the happiest. So these are just some examples of red flags when I stop doing those things. And these are examples of behaviors or actions that are signs of what is to come for me. And then knowing my own behavior trends, I can play the tape forward to see how bad things might get if I don't change something now. Like something has to change or nothing's going to change. Something has to change. I've got to veer off that path somehow, or I'm going to end up at the destination, and that destination may be a drink. And it's so much easier to get off the exit ramp earlier than it is to do it towards the end, to make changes when I have just a gentle warning sign that, hey, Rach, you should probably call your sponsor today. Or, Rachel, you might want to make an additional appointment with the psychiatrist. Things like that. Like, I can do that now, but if I were to wait, if I'm like, I don't want to call my sponsor, I'm not going to do it, then I'm not I'm not getting off the exit ramp. I'm staying on this path to depression. And it's like if I stay on that path, the longer that I'm on it, the faster I'm traveling and the harder it is to get off. And it's it's the same way with, I think, everything. when you're going down a negative road towards a bad decision. It's like the closer you get to the destination, it's harder to pull off. So knowing that our brain might be gearing up for a relapse before we consciously decide to do it can be empowering. It gives us the chance to intervene early. So some common red flags that we look out for include long periods of heightened stress, changes in mood, sleep disturbances, old patterns of negative thinking. And what I really pay attention to is halt. And if I have long periods of halt, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So hungry for me is a big one. If I don't know how this is going to sound to you, but to somebody who may have struggles with eating disorders, if I find that I am going down this road where my stomach is growling and I'm not responding to that, then I'm going down a bad road. Because for me, I'll just share a little bit about this if anybody does struggle with this. I will deprive myself of food if I'm depressed or feeling something negative. So the way that it'll start is I will, when I'm hungry, like when my body is hungry and my stomach is growling, I will not respond to it. I will just ignore it. It's hard to explain, but it's like I tell myself, no, you don't get to have that. I don't know how else to explain it. But over time, if I continue to do that, my stomach will stop growling and I no longer feel that sensation anymore. And then that's when I'll start to lose weight. And I don't necessarily have to respond. After that, my stomach's not growling anymore. It's more of like I feel faint and I need to respond. So if I feel faint and I don't respond, I'm really starting to uh, cause harm to my organs at that point. Because when I'm feeling faint and I don't respond, my heart is working harder, um, that kind of thing. And the way that in the past I have responded to feeling faint instead of eating is to sit down. So there were periods of my life that I did not stand up a lot. I could not stand up. I did not have the muscle. I didn't have the nutrients in my body to stand up for a minute, I would say. I mean, that sounds like an exaggeration. It's not. I really could not stand for that long. Um, so long periods of being hungry for me is a big red flag. Angry, I don't get angry so much. I used to before I quit drinking. I don't really get angry now. Um, Lonely, yeah, absolutely. I get lonely and I need to pick up the phone and I have to do the action in order to respond to that loneliness. If I don't respond to it and I decide I'm better off like putting my AirPods in and listening to an audiobook or taking a nap, then I'm going down that negative path. And I'm just going to start going faster down that negative path. So picking up the phone and calling someone when I'm lonely is me getting off the exit ramp early. And then tired. Uh, yeah, I'm laughing because without a job, um, I really have to work at going to bed early. I really do. Like it's already 9:45 right now. And that's too late to be recording. I need to be crawling into bed at 9:45. So I'm still working on it. I'm not beating myself up about it. But if I do that too much and I don't get enough sleep, then my head symptoms are worse. Like right now, I don't feel good at all. Um, and I'm looking above the computer and there's a quilt that I'm working on behind it. And my eyes keep going back and forth over the quilt. And that just makes my head hurt. If I wasn't so tired, it wouldn't hurt my head so much. So I really need to pay attention to that. So these signs can precede the physical act of relapse and serve as a critical indicator that my brain is entering into a danger zone. So what can we do to recognize these red flags? Like when my psychiatrist said, I want you to think about what your red flags are. Like, how did I do that? Well, here are some proactive steps to figure out what your red flags are and also how to possibly work through those red flags to be more aware of those red flags, right? So first, a great way for me to uncover what my red flags and warning signs were to communicate honestly with my support network. My support network has been around me for 8 years. Sorry. Oh my gosh. So 8 years, and they know me. Even the folks that I just met recently, like we know what to look for in each other, in another alcoholic. So having a discussion with another alcoholic about what their red flags are will probably help you to uncover some of your own early signs. So talk about it with someone that you trust. And next, meditation. So taking a couple meditation breaks. I do 2 a day, and they can even be just for 60 seconds. But just stop, get quiet, and see if you can increase your awareness of your thoughts and your feelings. And think about whatever you were just doing that you stopped to meditate for 60 seconds. If you weren't meditating during that 60 seconds, what would you be doing? And identify, like, is that good or is it bad? For example, like what I used to do when I was at work is when I would go to the bathroom, I would go into the stall and I would take 60 seconds and I would meditate for 60 seconds. I would focus on my breathing. I would take a deep breath, and I could feel my heart rate slowing down. Well, if I were to stop and think, if I wasn't meditating right now on the toilet, what would I be doing? I would still be on the toilet, but I would be thinking about what I need to do when I get out of the bathroom. I would be thinking about, oh, well, this person said this to me and I said that and I shouldn't have done this. And oh, I'm so late on this. Maybe if I do, you know what I mean? And so taking 60 seconds to focus on your breathing and then say, what would I be doing if I wasn't focused on my breathing for 60 seconds? This will make you more attentive to what what behaviors and activities you may be displaying that are negative, that are warning signs, red flags. And then lastly, revisit and reinforce your coping strategies regularly. And this can prepare you to deal with challenges proactively instead of reactively. So go back, visit some of my previous podcast episodes on coping. And as you're listening to it, think about like, what is happening when I need to use um, this coping strategy? What is happening to me that is a warning sign that's telling me that I need to do something to cope? So make a list, just like make a bulleted point list of what these red flags are. And just being aware of these is the first step, right? Being aware of trying to get to the beginning of our negative thoughts, being aware before we go too far down that path. So just recognizing that there is brain activity that begins far before we're conscious that we have made a decision is fascinating to me. And it empowers us to consider our approach to behaviors and action. By recognizing the early mental processes leading to a relapse, we can take steps to strengthen our recovery and maintain our sobriety even in the face of tough times and dark days. Even if we're not getting all the way to relapse, there's a lot of darkness that can be avoided if we can just be mindful about what some of those red flags are, that the lights are getting dim and things are getting dark for us. So spend some time today thinking about red flags and warning signs, and they might be able to tell you something about yourself that you hadn't noticed. Um, even if it's creepy, there's somebody else in there who is making decisions without you. And most importantly, if you feel like you may be headed in the wrong direction, headed for trouble, things are getting darker for you, you're thinking about drinking, you're romancing the drink because it's summertime, you're wanting to make a feeling go away, then pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and tell somebody that something's not right. And even if it means you call someone you love and you say, I need to talk. Will you listen? That's it. That's all it takes. I need to talk. Will you listen? So, speaking of, thank you for listening to me today on the Recovery Daily podcast. And I